Adam Dalglish's investigation into the murder of Sir Paul Barone in St Matthew's Church has centred on Barone's widow Barbara and her lover Stephen Lampert. The family chauffeur Halliwell is also under suspicion. He hated Barone and is loyal to the memory of Barone's elder brother, who died at the hands of the IRA. Barone's daughter Sarah has been pressured into giving an alibi to Ivor Garrod, a political activist with whom she is associated. Teresa Nolan, a young nurse who Barone had befriended when she worked for his mother, is now found dead.
Must come as a bit of a shock going into labour in a place like this and finding there are moments even Stephen Lampard can't save you from.
No, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Please, come this way.
Thanks.
Please, sit down.
Thank you.
Well, I know, of course, why you're here. It's an appalling business. I still can't quite believe it. Well, I suppose all relations and friends tell you that. Brutal murders, the sort of thing that happens to strangers, not to people one knows.
How did you learn about it?
Well, Lady Barone telephoned me just after your people brought the news. And as soon as I was free, I called in at the house. I wanted to offer whatever help I could to her and Lady Ursula. And what do you want of me, Commander?
I'd like to talk to you about Paul Barone.
Oh, what aspect of Paul Barone? The next Prime Minister but one?
You don't think that was a serious possibility, then?
No, he hadn't the fire in his belly. Well, you want to know about Paul? All right. I think that he looked back at his life, at what he'd achieved, and ahead to what he could hope for, and found nothing that he liked. He had a daughter who despised him. He lusted after his wife, but he didn't love her. I think that Paul needed an excuse, Commander, a reason for chucking it all. And what better reason than the voice of God telling you personally that you're on the wrong track?
I see. Did you...
And more generally, Paul suffered from what I choose to call the tyranny of success. I hear it all the time from the husbands. You know, they sit where you're sitting now, and ostensibly they've come to talk about their wives, but they're the ones with the problem. They can't win. They spent most of their youth working to qualify, most of their young manhood striving to succeed. The right wife, the right house, right school for the children, right clubs, and for what? More money, more comfort, bigger house, faster car. And they don't even get much of a kick out of that. But there's still another 20 years to go before retirement. When overnight, they're nobody. The walking dead.
That's a depressing picture.
Oh, I hear about it all the time from their wives. The wives suffer too.
Did Lady Barone suffer? She's your cousin, I believe. You must know her fairly well.
Well, for the past 3 years, we've been lovers. You must have found that out by now.
Did her husband know?
Yes, of course he did. Husbands usually do. But Barbara never locked the door against him. She liked the reassurance that Paul was still suitably enthralled.
And was it?
Yes, I should think so. Look, Commander, all this seems rather oblique to a murder inquiry, and I'm a rather busy man.
The body of Teresa Nolan was discovered early this morning in Holland Park.
How did she die?
An empty container of analgesic tablets and a half-empty bottle of vodka were found by her side.
Poor girl.
We know about Miss Nolan's pregnancy and its termination. Now, did it occur to you that the child could have been Sir Paul?
Yes, to me and quite a number of other people, I imagine.
What were your movements last Tuesday?
Hmm?
Yes, your movements. I mean, what did you do? From, say, midday?
Well, from 2 until 5, I was operating here. Barbara arrived at about 4 by cab. And we had tea in this room. And I have a small private flat upstairs where we spent time together. I changed, and we left for the restaurant just after 8. The night porter saw us go.
So Lady Barone arrived here at 4?
Yeah.
And you finished operating at 5?
Mm.
Well, what did she do until you finished?
Well, she was in the theatre watching.
Lady Barone attended an operation?
Well, it isn't uncommon.
I mean, is that something she often does?
It's something she has a fancy for from time to time. Excuse me.
Good morning, Lady Barone.
Good morning. Is Mr. Lampard here?
He's in his consulting room. He had somebody with him.
Police?
Yes.
How long have they been here?
About 10 minutes, Lady Barone.
Is it Commander Dalgleish?
Yes.
Thank you. Halliwell, will you drive round to the side of the house?
Will you look where you're going? I'm just not in the mood for Dalgleish, that's all. This'll do. We'll wait here for a while. You never have anything to say to me, have you?
Worried for your boyfriend?
Please remember, you're only the chauffeur.
Not yours.
It's enough, Halliwell.
Why, what will you do? Report me to Lady Ursula? I'll say you were lying. Which one of us would you believe?
I'm not your enemy.
You want to be my friend? That's a change.
My husband's death makes everything change.
Well, no one could be more flexible than you, my lady. Hugo Barone's fiancée, Paul Barone's wife, Stephen Lampard...
Shut up! It would have been different if Hugo had lived, you know that. You saw us together, we were a good couple. You could help me. For the Major's sake.
There isn't anything here belonging to Miss Nolan.
She left nothing in her room?
No.
Did you see her again after she left the house last night?
No.
You don't seem surprised or upset to hear of her death.
I'm never surprised by the things that people get up to. Why should I be upset? She was nothing to me. This way, please. Come in. Commander Dalgleish and Miss Miskin.
Good morning. I believe you already know of Teresa Nolan's death. Now, what can you tell me about Miss Nolan and her stay here?
In what way is this relevant to my son's death? She was here for scarcely 5 weeks.
Lady Ursula, your son and Miss Nolan were friends.
I found Miss Nolan a competent and considerate nurse of a not very intelligent young woman.
How did she come to you?
Through Mr. Lampart. She had nursed my daughter-in-law at Pembroke Lodge.
Lady Barone was a patient there?
Yes, following a miscarriage.
When was this?
It would be a year ago, perhaps.
Who else in this household will have met Miss Nolan at that time?
Well, my son visited his wife, naturally, and so did her brother, Mr. Swain, I believe.
Mr. Halliwell?
He will have driven Sir Paul to the clinic, and he may have taken flowers. I find these questions tedious and far from the point.
Was Miss Nolan happy here?
Happy? She was engaged to care for me, not to be happy.
How long did she stay with you last night?
Not long. She asked for her post here to be continued. She seemed anxious about returning to work at Pembroke Lodge.
But you weren't sympathetic to her request?
I think you have troubled me quite enough about this girl, Commander.
The girl's dead, Lady Ursula. Did you know that when she first came here, she just terminated a pregnancy?
I resent your insinuations. If you're looking for the father, you will find him here.
But you did know about the pregnancy and the termination.
Had I known, I would not have taken her. I've seen too much of death to value life so little.
I know that Miss Nolan was unhappy and worried. I also know she was fond of your son. 3 days after his death, she dies, having had an abortion 6 weeks earlier.
He was not the father.
Can you be sure?
If my son was interested in Teresa Nolan, it was as a daughter only, after he'd been rejected by his own. Teresa Nolan's child was not my son's. He had a mistress long before the girl was known to anyone here.
Who was she?
I know nothing about her, except that she seems to have been intelligent and discreet.
And the relationship continued up to the time of his death?
I have always assumed that it was to her that he went on the afternoon of his death.
Why didn't you tell me about this before?
If a minister of the Crown has a mistress, it is a delicate point. If your own special branch didn't seem fit to inform you, you can hardly expect it of me.
Did your son tell you about this woman?
Yes.
When?
Some time ago.
Now, when would that have been, Lady Ursula?
I'm old, Commander, and my memory has become selective. Oh, I too find that inconvenient at times.
What happened? Suicide, was it?
We can't yet say, Mrs. Mintz. Look, when was the last time you saw Sir Paul?
Just before he went out, the day he died, the Tuesday morning. About 10:30, that would be. In the library. I'd gone in to polish the desk, and there he was, writing in his diary.
You sure it was his diary?
Look, it had different days to the page. It had dates in it. It was open in front of him, and he was writing in it. Think I don't know a diary? Then he put it away in the top right-hand drawer. That's where it's kept.
How do you know where it's kept?
I've worked in that house 9 years.
Did he say anything to you?
Not a lot. He asked me if the years I'd spent at Camden Hill Square had been good years. What do they expect for their money? Love? If he wanted me to say they were the best years of my life, he was disappointed.
What then?
He went out.
Out of the house?
He had his jacket on, he picked up this hold-all bag thing, he went through to the hall, and I heard the front door open and shut. I never followed him to the door to kiss him goodbye, but out he went all right. And that's the last I ever saw of him in this world.
And he put that diary back in the drawer. You're sure of that?
Why? What's all this about the diary? You saying I stole it or something?
No, Mrs. Minns, but it's not in the drawer now.
Well, he never took it with him. Not then, because I saw him put it back.
Can I ask you about Diana Travers? Don't you reckon it's a strange job to choose a girl like that?
Educated, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, job wasn't badly paid. £4 the hour, and a good midday meal if you're there for it. No tax, unless you'd daft enough to pay it. She said she was an actress after a job she could chuck if something turned up suddenly.
You got on well together then?
No harm in her. Bit nosy. Asked a lot about the family. One day, I found her going through the drawers in Sir Paul's desk. She just laughed. Bold as brass. I liked her. I wouldn't let her stay here if I didn't.
Any of her things still here?
Well, after the solicitors.
What solicitors?
After she drowned, these two chaps turned up. Solicitors, they said, looking after her family's affairs while they were abroad.
And they took away her belongings?
Everything. Probably turned the place over. Even turned the mattress up. Upset me, I can tell you. I told them, I said, you're like a pair of bloody vultures, I said.
They show you any proof who they were?
Gave me a card, calling card, and a letter from their firm on posh paper.
But you don't think they were solicitors? All right, who do you think they were then?
Oh, come off it. Two of your lot, Fuzz. Think I don't know a policeman when I see one?
You got the card and the letter?
Card, letter, receipt. Car numbers on the back of the card.
Yeah.
They were parked way down the road, but I had Mr. Smith's binoculars. What about that tea or coffee?
Yeah, all right, I'd like a cup of tea, please. Mrs. Minns, I'm afraid I've got some more bad news. It will mean more questions.
We'll lunch you at the table where my great-grandfather dined Disraeli. It's only a short drive. Now, here is what we call the surgery, his constituency office. We've kept it locked since Barone's death.
Your people rang. We'd have locked it anyway.
General and I thought it was the right thing to do. Bleak room, I know.
Place of last resort.
9 times out of 10. They exhausted the patients and their families, the DHS staff, local authority and their friends. Finally, it's here. I vote for you. Do something. Spinster, 52. Dad dead, Mum bedridden at home, getting senile. No hospital bed. Mum wouldn't go even if there were. 2 kids, 19. She gets pregnant. They marry, living with their in-laws in a small terraced house. No privacy, can't make love. Baby is squalling. Family saying, I told you so. No hope of a council house for 3 years or more. Find me a hospital bed, a house. Give me hope, give me love.
Well, some members like all that, of course.
They're the ones who should have been social workers.
Took a lot out of Paul. What we realise.
Eh?
Thank you.
This is inscribed to Paul Barone and signed by the Millicent Gentle. Well, is she a constituent?
Not to my knowledge.
Never heard of her. Hardly Barone's taste in reading.
A rose at twilight. The inscription's dated May the 7th.
May the 7th?
He turned up here mid-afternoon on May the 7th. That night we heard the girl who worked for him had drowned. Diana or something.
Had that book with him when he came in. I remember him putting it in the drawer.
Did you notice anything else?
Well, yes, his trousers were rumpled, I suppose. And his shirt was grubby.
You knew Paul, Commander. He was usually immaculate.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we knew we ought to mention it when the time came.
Did either of you know where he intended spending his last night?
Well, 6 o'clock certainly. Nobody in his house knew where he was.
How do you know?
I rang just before 6. I wanted to make an appointment about various minor constituency problems left unsettled.
Well, who took the call?
Lady Ursula. She said she'd look in his diary and ring back.
You certain? I mean, you're certain she said she consulted his diary?
Yes, I'm sure of it.
Did she ring back?
It's like 10 minutes later. She said the next day looked all right, but she'd asked Barone to confirm in the morning.
I phoned the house later, not knowing Frank had already tried.
At 8:30?
Yes, that's right. I spoke to a young chap, Swain. But I've already told your inspector all about that.
Did his resignation come as a surprise?
Oh, absolutely.
How did he seem?
Calm. Too calm. Pretty airy, wouldn't you say, General?
He looked to me like a man released from pain. You can't mistake the look. I'm afraid we were no help to him at all.
Oh, he wasn't asking for help. He'd gone to a higher power for that. Oh, well, he's dead, poor devil. There's no point in feeling bitter. The General can't believe it was suicide. It's not something he'd do himself, so he can't imagine it in his friends.
What do you think?
Well, once I'd have said the same, but now I'm not sure. He was so strange. Nothing seems certain anymore.
This interview is taking place in room 3 of New Scotland Yard on Saturday, May the 14th at 16:50 hours. The interview is between Commander Dalgleish and Mr. Ivor Garrett. Inspector Robbins is in attendance. A full written record of this interview will be made, which you will be asked to read and then sign. When you were last in this building, I showed you copies of certain letters. I'd like your general comment on them.
No, I'll answer specific questions.
Did you read the letters?
Briefly, yes.
What do you think the purpose of sending such letters would be?
I don't know.
What purpose could you imagine?
To alarm Barone? To let him know somebody was aware of events involving him and willing to circulate them?
Well, why not sell the information directly to the press?
Well, money, presumably, wasn't the motive.
So you think the motive was more personal? Perhaps the writer had a grudge. What do you think?
I think it's a bit pathetic, all in all.
Did you write and send letters anonymously to the late Sir Paul Barone?
No.
Did you know Teresa Nolan?
I'm here to answer questions concerning anonymous letters.
Yes, yes. Did you know Teresa Nolan?
I met her once.
Where?
Camden Hill Square.
On what occasion?
A dinner party. Lady Ursula was convalescent. It was her first night down. The poor kid, Teresa, didn't look at all happy, but then Lady Ursula was brought up to know exactly what room people are entitled to dine in. Nurse Nolan was eating above her station and made to feel it.
Intentionally?
Women like Lady Ursula are offensive merely by existing. Intention doesn't come into it. You're all lackeys at heart, aren't you? She's nearly in her dotage, but she's got you lot running round her to... Oh, forget it.
Running round to do what, Mr. Gabbard?
To save the family name. Do you know why Sarah hated her father?
No, I can only guess. But you obviously want to tell me.
But when Barone's brother was killed in Belfast, Sarah took the call with the news. And when she told her father, she saw on his face, well, she described it to me as a mixture of exultation and hope. The knowledge that Barbara was now available and that he could have her. It was there just for a second, but she saw it and knew it.
That would be shocking if it were true.
Oh, it's true. Are these letters actionable?
Not now.
Well, maybe a woman killed him. Someone he trusted who could get close. It would explain why there was no struggle.
How do you know he didn't struggle?
Well, the press would have made a meal of it. Barone put up a desperate fight. I'd try the widow. She thought she was marrying a future Prime Minister and she got a religious maniac instead.
happened?
What the bloody hell are you doing here?
But you said you'd been out for 6. I've been waiting ages.
You are handing it to them on a plate meeting me here in this state.
The nurse, Teresa, what did he say?
I'll tell you in a minute. Now, where's the car?
It's through here. Well, I'm really afraid.
We can't handle a weak link in the setup, particularly you.
How much does Douglas know?
Nothing. Now, just stay calm and everything will be okay. But stop this bloody phoning me at all hours. My phone or yours could be tapped.
Where were you on Tuesday night, Ivor?
You know where I was.
Yeah, but I mean, it was after 9 when you turned up on Tuesday. You'd never been late for a minute.
I was working. There was a hold-up on the tube. I wasn't at St. Matthew's Church cutting your father's throat.
I mean, if it comes to it, you will let me tell them where I was, won't you? I mean, you'll let me tell them
Look,
where
Sarah,
I was on
just
Tuesday night.
get a hold of yourself, will you? I'm warning you. Teresa Nolan had an abortion a few weeks ago. I assume your father was responsible.
Oh.
Your family contaminates everybody it touches.
Suppose I decide I've got no choice. Suppose I decide I have to tell.
Tell what? Give Dalgleish the code names of 11 other people whose real names and addresses you don't even know. Take him to an empty terraced house. We're not stupid. And there's a procedure for treachery.
Like throwing me in a river, like slitting my throat?
Just stay away from me, Sarah. And no more bloody phone calls.
I knew you'd come, sooner or later. At least I know now what happened.
Can you talk about him?
It'll be a relief to hear somebody speak his name. The television newsreader said knife wounds. What wounds?
Is that how you heard from the television?
How else would I hear?
I'm sorry, Miss Washburn. We need your help. You probably knew him better than anyone else.
I thought I did.
I'm sorry.
Was it a quick death?
Very quick. I doubt he felt any pain.
He must have been afraid. It's such an unlikely thing to have happened to Paul. This religious conversion, I mean. He was so worldly.
Did he explain it to you?
One night, he turned up late and told me he'd had an experience of God. He made it sound so matter-of-fact. When he left, I knew I'd lost him. Not as a friend. I didn't want him as a friend.
How'd you come to meet him?
At work, I was a principal in his department. You must know that.
And then, when you became lovers, you asked for a transfer?
No, I was due for a transfer. You don't stay long in private office.
Did you meet his family?
He didn't take me home, if that's what you mean. He didn't introduce me to his wife or Lady Ursula and say, meet my mistress.
How often do you see him?
As often as he could get away. Half day, a couple of hours. He'd drop in on his way to the constituency, if he was alone.
Tell me, did he ever suggest marriage?
No, nor did I. So no one killed him to prevent him divorcing his wife and marrying me.
Did he talk about it?
Occasionally.
Was he upset by her infidelity? Look, I'm sorry, Miss Washburn. My priority is catching his murderer, not preserving his reputation. I mean, the two things may not be incompatible. I try to see that they're not, but I am clear which has to come first. Now, shouldn't you be?
No. For 3 years, I preserved his privacy. Not his reputation, his privacy. And it's cost me a lot. I'm not complaining. I knew the rules. But I'm going to go on doing it because it was important to him. And if I don't, if I answer every intimate question you ask, then all those months of discretion, never being seen together, always taking second place, will have been for nothing. You can't bring him back. So leave me his privacy.
I wish I could.
Paul talked about you, Commander. I expect you'll find his killer. But you'll have to do it without my help. I'm not going to break Paul's confidences.
Thank you. The young nurse who looked after Sir Paul's mother.
Teresa Nolan?
Yes. She killed herself yesterday.
No.
Did you know she had an abortion recently?
I have nothing left to spare for Teresa Nolan, nor for Harry Mack.
Could Sir Paul have been the father?
Commander, I know nothing that can help you solve his murder or throw light on this suicide. For his sake and mine, I refuse involvement. Do you understand me?
If grief were the criterion, Carol Washburn should be the widow.
And she heard about it on the television.
Yes.
Wouldn't you thought there'd be someone Barone could have trusted with her secret who could have... I don't know, broken the news to her. Helped her.
I wonder...
What?
I think you should have seen her alone.
The inquest tomorrow, Father. I don't think I can go. All those people and the newspapers.
Think of it like a funeral, an occasion that marks the end of a short, painful process. I'll come for you at 10 in a taxi. We'll be afraid together.
Might we see Darren, Father?
Oh, very likely.
Very well, thank you, Father. I see you've got a new cassock.
The old one was falling to pieces. I thought it was right to buy a new one. I had to go and see the Archdeacon. He was very pleasant. Asked me to lunch.
Father, I've got to talk to you again. Go over it all, to try and remember. There's something...
Miss Wharton, don't punish yourself.
But it's to do with Darren, and I don't know how to remember. Please, Father, I've got to talk to someone.
Of course we can talk, Miss Wharton. Whenever you want.
Thank you, Father.
Tomorrow, we'll have the whole day together. Last week, before everything, there was less than £5. This is blood money.
It'll be put to good use. Out of evil comes good.
If good is just another part of evil, where can we find certainty? Will I see you at evensong?
I get so tired these days.
Goodbye, Miss Wharton.
Goodbye, Father.
Darren! Yeah?
I've been so worried about you.
I thought you wasn't in there. No.
I seen everyone come out.
I was talking to Father Barnes.
I've never seen that many at church. It's the aim of it good then? The murders? Are you walking?
Yes.
I'll tell you what come of me then.
Oh, I don't know anything. I didn't know your mother's address.
Yeah, well, I ain't with me, Mum. Temporary. I mean, they took me off of her. I said I thieved, but I never. I mean, look what they've done.
You look very nice.
I'm being bloody fostered.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
I am. I bloody am. You don't understand. It's like prison it is.
Oh, Darren, I'm sure it's not
Listen, will ya? It's just like I'm a little kid. Bed by 9, school regular. I mean, they take me in a car to make sure I get there, and everyone hates me at school. I'm not used to it. Social workers, look at me, look what they've done.
Sorry, I didn't know.
You know, you and me got on okay, though. You look like you need someone to look after you, like I done in the church. Well, I can do that for you. I don't mind. Please.
What are you asking me?
Well, let me come home with you.
What now, for lunch?
To live.
Simple as that.
Why not? Why can't I come? You've got to help me, please.
Well, if it's official. Police, social workers, that you see.
I thought you was my friend.
How did you get in?
I always kept a key just in case.
I'm busy now.
Please speak to me, Mattie.
I said I am busy.
He was a good man, my father. He did try to do what was right in his own way. Just tell me that was true, Mattie.
I'll tell you how good he was. He let them put my father in prison for life. For life! Mind. And said to me after he was sorry. Prison was torture for my father. He couldn't take it and it killed him. Paul Barone, the great barrister and expert. He told Daddy they'd never find him guilty. Told Daddy he'd get off on appeal. Told Daddy not to worry, he was working on it. Forget him. Let him die.
But he gave you a home and a job?
You think that I should be grateful for this dog's life I lead? He thought that he was paying for his mistakes. Well, maybe now he has.
Well, read it then.
Dear Gran and Grandad, please forgive me. I can't go on in this pain. I killed my baby.
She had an abortion 6 weeks ago.
Now, my friend is dead. There's no place for me now. You were good to me, but I was no good to you. I thought when I became a nurse, everything would be different. I hope it's not children that find me. Forgive me. And she's just put Teresa.
I'm afraid I'll have to take the letter away with me. You'll have it back as soon as possible.
The policeman who told us he didn't say anything about a letter.
No, it was in Teresa's pocket. Can you talk about it? You brought her up, didn't you?
She hadn't anyone else. We only had the one child, Teresa's father. Her mum died 10 days after she was born. Appendicitis. The operation went wrong. Chance in a million.
And what happened to your son?
He was 21. He couldn't look after a baby. I think he wanted to get away from everything else, Teresa. We didn't really want the marriage. His wife. She wasn't the girl we would have chosen for him, was she, Dad?
We told him.
He wouldn't listen.
And where's he now? Well, Teresa told me he was in Canada. Do you have an address for him?
He hardly knew she was alive. Why should he care now she's dead?
What was she like as a child?
I think she must have been lonely. She had to go to school by bus and couldn't stay on late, and there weren't other girls of her age anywhere near.
But she liked the countryside, didn't she?
Yes, but it's so isolated. We couldn't let her go walking there on her own. You never know these days.
Found her in a park.
Under the trees, yes.
After you came hounding her.
She'd only come back for a few days' rest.
Teresa was happy to talk to me, Mr. Nolan. I didn't hound her.
What did it matter? She killed herself, didn't she? First getting the baby, then the abortion, then suicide. What's one more sin when you got that on your conscience?
Well, thank you for your hospitality and patience. Now, is there anybody who would like to be here with you? I'm afraid there will be more questions. A local officer will call tomorrow. Goodbye, Mr. Nolan.
Why didn't she say anything to me when she was here? Why didn't she tell me about the baby? I'd have understood. I'd have looked after her. I could have made Dad understand. That's what hurts. Why didn't she tell me?
Well, I expect she wanted to save you pain.
Dad's so bitter. He thinks she's damned. But I've forgiven her. God can't be less merciful than I am. I can't believe that.
No, I don't think we need to believe that.
Up there, sir. Still there. That's where they found it. Came in with the young lady's body. They lifted her out. They put her on the bank up there.
You're a military man, Henry?
That's right, sir. Blasters. I've been dormant at the restaurant 5 years now. Got my army pension, but extra never hurts.
You live in?
No, sir. Wife and I, we live in the village.
I thought this business was over and done with, sir. That it was accidental.
I'm investigating the death of Sir Paul Barone. There may be some connection. I was driving back to London. I thought I'd call to see where it happened.
Lady Barone was lunching here at the time of the accident, sir. But Sir Paul, well, he called to say that he wouldn't be coming.
Is there something else?
I was told it was none of the restaurant's business, sir.
I think you should tell me what happened.
Well, Monsieur Jean-Pierre, he said I shouldn't say anything I couldn't swear to, and he's been good to me, sir.
Well, tell me what you have to say. Don't worry about Monsieur Jean-Pierre.
Well, he was round the front, sir. He was clearing up the grass. Gravel off the driveway gets everywhere, and they don't need a doorman at lunchtime. It was then that I thought, no, I did see him, sir.
Who did you see?
Sir Paul.
Sir Paul Barone, are you sure?
I wouldn't mistake him, sir. Shortly before the accident, he was walking down to the river.
But I thought he phoned to say he couldn't join his wife for lunch.
Well, he did, sir. But I saw him 10 minutes before that.
Well, who took the call?
I did, sir. My duty is to man the phone once the ambulance and the police had been called. It was Sir Paul. I knew his voice.
Did he say where he was phoning from?
No, sir. It wasn't the village, it was only the one call box. And that's out of order, I know, because my wife tried to telephone her sister to tell her about the drowning.
And there's no other phone box near enough for him to have used?
Not that I know, sir.
Did you see his car?
No, sir. But I wouldn't. Car park's out of sight from where I was clearing up the gravel.
And you say you mentioned this to Monsieur Jean-Pierre?
Yes, sir. And he said it was none of the restaurant's business if Sir Paul decided to keep an eye on his wife.
Mm-hmm. Right, walking along the riverbank?
Well, doesn't seem very likely, sir. Not when you put it like that. There's somebody else, sir, but it don't make sense neither. He was wet, sir. Soaking wet. Now, I'll swear that he'd been in the river. Only he wasn't walking away from the river, he was walking towards it.
Do many of your customers arrive by walking?
Oh, she has trouble with her walking, sir. Very nice lady. She lives over the river there. I expect she'll be bringing her letters for the postman to collect in the morning. Easier for her than walking around by the village. And we keep milk and bread for her in the restaurant. Excuse me, sir.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, don't be concerned about Makepeace. He's a well-tempered hound.
This is Commander Dalgleish.
Maybe.
Police.
Ah. Are you here about Sir Paul Barone?
I am, yes.
That good dear man. I was wondering if you'd come.
I'm sorry. This is Miss Gentle, sir.
Millicent Gentle, Commander. How do you do?
How do you do?
Yes? What is it? Yes?